Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This is an anxious and difficult time for Americans.
Huh? What? Who am I? And what am I doing here? Oh, I almost forgot. I'm here to do a virtual town. A what? A virtual town hall.
More than 57,000 lives lost. More than 26 million Americans have filed for unemployment. We're all worried about our health and our families. And women are experiencing much of the pandemic devastating impacts more than anything else. Millions of women have lost their jobs or had their hours slashed and are facing worries about just making ends meet. And millions more of women are on the front lines as healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, sanitation workers, childcare workers, grocery store clerks, workers, and more are carrying on their backs the rest of the nation. Domestic violence survivors are at a heightened risk, forced to shelter in place with their abusers. Women's access to reproductive health care is increasingly in jeopardy. And while this virus can hit anyone, anywhere, regardless of race, gender, economic status, or level of power, it doesn't impact every community equally.
Notice how I'm able to rattle off facts and stats right off the top of my head without using a teleprompter.
We're going to dig into all these issues and more in today's discussion, and I'm really thrilled to have my friend, the former senator and former Secretary of State, and the woman who should be President of the United States right now, Hillary Clinton. Welcome, Hillary. It's great to have you here.
I am thrilled to introduce my friend Hillary Clinton, who has been hanging out here like a vulture. And now, while Hillary completely takes over my town hall, I'll just go into a state of deep hibernation.
I am thrilled to be part of your campaign, to not only endorse you, but to help highlight a lot of the issues that are at stake in this presidential election.
And I'm out like a light.
And 1 out of 3 jobs held by women in our country has been classified as essential. So this is an issue that affects all of us, young and old.
Just keep rambling on, Hillary, while I get my beauty sleep.
Which Joe Biden has been exemplifying throughout his entire life. Think of what it would mean if we had a real president.
Uh-oh, I think she just mentioned me. I better pretend to be awake now.
And we share a common experience and a love of Scranton, Pennsylvania. When my great-grandparents came from England and Wales, they ended up in Scranton. And my grandfather and then my father grew up in a house on Diamond Avenue. And while the Rodhams were living on Diamond Avenue, the Bidens were over on North Washington Street. And, you know, I've had a lot of time to visit Scranton, talk about Scranton with Joe. And one memorable occasion, we were there together and he said, hey, let's go see the house that I lived in when I was a little boy.
Okay, now she's doing the Scranton shtick. So I'll just sit here like a potted plant, since at least it doesn't take up much of my energy.
We have to take a few questions, and Michelle Kwan is going to read some questions to us that were submitted. And Michelle, welcome, and thank you for all your involvement throughout this effort for both Hillary and before and me. So, Michelle, fire away.
All right. Thank you so much, Vice President Biden. Our first question comes from Tiffany in Connecticut.
And since these calls are carefully screened, I don't have to worry about Tiffany in Connecticut ask me a certain embarrassing question that's been in the news. Oh, and YouTube? Just remember, I did not mention a certain taboo name. Got that? I did not mention that name.
And the idea that we would have been warned more than a half a dozen times explicitly by the Intelligence Committee of what was coming, what had happened, what China wasn't doing, etc., and then be out there complimenting what a great job China was doing. It's just beyond, and I assume, I shouldn't assume anything, but my guess is you would have read, that's what you're talking about. The question is, did he just not read what we used to call the PDB? Or did he read it and not care?
I did not mention that I opposed Trump's China travel ban that I condemned as xenophobic. Oh, and if you want to see the complete Joe Biden town hall, which was completely dominated by Hillary Clinton, you could see it at the link below.